Hey guys, it's Graham. What's cracking? Time for another Shogun update. I've read a handful of chapters, and I'm getting into this kind of slog portion of the book where it seems like a lot of the same things are happening. Not necessarily that Blackthorn is stuck in a loop and repeating, but I feel like conversations between different characters kind of all amount to the same thing. There hasn't been a massive change necessarily in any of the tension dynamics between the characters, other than Blackthorn is kind of getting closer to his year mark by which he needs to be fluent, or else everybody on the island or in the village that's supposed to be teaching him Japanese language and culture will be executed by Toranaga. There was, however, one particular series of events connected to the culinary ways of life and a conflict between the way the English do things and the Japanese do things that led to a moving and powerful conclusion. There was some argument between Blackthorn and Mariko about the types of food that they eat. He doesn't really like Japanese cuisine. It's very heavily based on seafood, and a lot of that seafood is consumed raw, and a lot of it, even if it wasn't raw, is stuff that is foreign and not palatable to him. Raw octopus and so on and so forth. He was able to acquire a pheasant, which he then butchered and left the meat to hang on the grounds where he was staying. And Mariko is confused by this, and he explains that it's really dry and not very good unless it's had some time to kind of hang and cure. I've heard of people doing this with meats before, mainly with venison. I'm not sure what the process is, what all it entails, other than you hang it and you let it do its thing for a few days before you prepare it, because it sweetens the meat. This is not how things are done in Japan, and it's actually so contrary to their culture that Mariko feels that it's necessary to mention it to him, but he's like, no, it's fine, and make sure you tell the staff to leave it alone. It goes against my wishes for any of them to take it down. Well, in the course of other events and responsibilities that he's got, he kind of forgets about it, and after a couple of days, it goes beyond the curing point and into the rotting point, and this meat goes bad and starts attracting flies, and it becomes offensive to the house to the point where it becomes necessary for the well-being of the house for the pheasant to be cut down and buried. The problem is the way in which Blackthorn issued the order for the meat to be left alone constitutes the servants going directly against the wishes of their master, and so whoever cuts down the pheasant and throws it away would then have to commit seppuku, because this is just how it's done. By the time Blackthorn finds out about this, the pheasant has been cut down and thrown away, and the servant who did so has already executed himself. And Blackthorn is just racked with tremendous guilt. First, he's furious with Mariko-san and well, not Mariko-san, just Mariko, and the other staff members of the house for doing this and for allowing this to happen, and then he's racked with guilt because he realizes that it was technically done so by his own order. And there's a long and profound discussion between him and Mariko about why things are done this way, and how the man who basically volunteered to do it did so because he was old, he was already sick and dying and uncomfortable, and he did so to spare anybody else in the household from having to go through with it. But under their law and custom, it was obligatory for somebody to step up and say, okay, yeah, I've got to literally fall on the sword for this one. So many of the interactions between Blackthorn and Mariko and the other staff just highlight the severe difference of value between the East and the West in this time period. I'm not entirely sure how much of this carries forward to the present day, but this is about what goes on in Japan in the 1600s, specifically in the year 1600. And it's just one of those very powerful reminders of how differently their culture evolved from the West, especially without the influence of Christianity to teach the value of life. This goes all the way back to the beginning, and what I believe it was Toranaga said. These Christians value life, whereas we value honor, and they do so in such different, I almost want to say extremes, but to such different extents that they can't really occupy the same space at the same time and survive as constituted. Just another powerful example of that. It did manifest in a different way, and that made it stand out to me in this particular section of reading. So I'm going to try to probably finish this one in the next 2 weeks. I'm just kind of ready to be done with it. It is still a beautiful piece of writing, and the characters are very well developed and all of that, but I just find myself kind of going in circles with the plot, and I'm waiting for something significant to happen again to move it forward. Those moments seem like they have been fewer and farther in between, and I'd like for something significant to develop in this story. So I figure if I'm going to do that, I should just put a greater emphasis on finishing it instead of having just a couple of chapters to report on every week. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Drive safe. See you out there.